keep wanting to say Happy Monday, but what is that? Exactly. Happy Thursday, right? Hope you all enjoyed your day off. If you had a Eid meal, I hope it was plentiful. If you didn't have an Eid meal, I also hope it was plentiful. Today, the Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, delivered a keynote address at the Global Gateway High-Level Education Forum in Brussels. She emphasized that with no major education events being convened in Paris, New York, or Fortaleza in 2024, it's time to strengthen support for countries on SDG 4 and education transformation, especially on digital learning, education, financing, teacher skills, and country-level collaboration as we approach the Transforming Education Summit's 2-year anniversary. Also today, the Deputy Secretary General met with Haja Labib, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belgium. They discussed a number of issues, including Belgium's cooperation with the United Nations, forthcoming milestones such as the Summit of the Future, as well as the situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Yesterday, she attended the Spotlight Initiative's governing body meeting. She highlighted that 7 years into this partnership, it is evident that comprehensive, large-scale investment in ending violence against women holds immense potential. Also yesterday, she participated in the 4th annual EU-UN Strategic Dialogue on Sustainable Development, where she addressed various topics, including the Summit of the Future, the reforming of the international financial architecture, and the collaboration on digitalization and skills for the future. The Deputy Secretary General also held bilateral meetings with senior Belgium and EU officials, as well as major stakeholders on the education issue. She will be back in New York City later today. A couple of updates on Gaza and the OPT, which covered today and yesterday. Martin Griffiths, the Emergency Relief Coordinator, met yesterday virtually with the heads of the World Food Program, Cindy McCain, UNICEF, Catherine Russell, the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, and the Special Humanitarian and Reconstruction Coordinator for the UN, Sigrid Kaag, as well as Jamie McGoldrick, the acting resident and humanitarian coordinator for the OPT, and the Commissioner General of UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini. Mr. Griffiths said that the United Nations welcomes all efforts to increase the amount and type of aid delivered for the people of Gaza, whether by air, by sea, or most importantly, by land. We trust that no effort will be spared to ensure that aid reaches those who need it across the Gaza Strip, including in the northern part, and that the safety of our aid workers and of civilians remains paramount, and that the independence of our humanitarian operations be maintained. We will continue to work with all those committed to alleviating the humanitarian suffering in Gaza and to advocate for the principled and safe aid delivery. That is our commitment and obligations to our teams and to our people. Yesterday, a United Nations team carried out an assessment mission in Khan Yunis following the withdrawal of Israeli troops from that part of southern Gaza. Our team reported widespread destruction. Every building they visited and most of those they were able to see had been damaged, and paved roads had been reduced to dirt tracks. The team inspected a United Nations warehouse, 4 medical centers, and 8 schools. They saw very significant damage in all but one of those structures. Street and public spaces in Khan Yunis are littered with unexploded ordnance, posing severe risks to civilians, especially for children. And the team found unexploded 1,000-pound bomb lying on the main intersection and inside schools. Residents who returned to the area and some who remained during the fighting told the team about the dire shortages of food and water and the loss of critical health services due to the destruction of Al-Nasser and Al-Amal Hospital. Colleagues from across the humanitarian system participated in that mission. After this briefing, also, I would encourage you to take a look at the OCHA website, which has some photos that documented the mission's findings. Also to note, on Tuesday, the humanitarian coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territory, Jamie McGoldrick, was also in Khan Yunis, where he visited an UNRWA school that is now sheltering thousands of people. He said the community there needs more supplies and support, including food, water, health, sanitation assistance. Yesterday, Mr. McGoldrick represented the humanitarian community in a meeting with the Southern Command of the Israeli Defense Forces, as well as COGAT, the Israeli body responsible for the flow of aid and coordination in Gaza. Mr. McGoldrick presented a list of requests of what is needed for the UN and our humanitarian partners to be able to deliver assistance safely, to deliver it effectively, and at the necessary scale throughout Gaza. Meanwhile, UNICEF reported that yesterday one of its vehicles was hit by, they reported yesterday that one of their vehicles was hit by live ammunition on Tuesday while waiting to enter northern Gaza. The agency said the incident had been raised with relevant Israeli authorities. Moving to the north, I know the issue of the investigation into the explosion that took place at the end of March, in which three UN observers and one language assistant were wounded. If you'll recall, that incident took place on March 30th. The investigation by the UN is ongoing. However, preliminary findings indicate that the explosion was caused by a landmine. You will recall that I can also, tell you that we are deeply concerned with the repeated exchanges of fire across the blue line since 8 October, and all of those are in breach of Security Council Resolution 1701. We reiterate our call for these to stop. Turning to Haiti, the World Food Program said today it is ramping up food assistance in the country, but warns that its food stocks may run out by the end of this month. WFP is only enough food in the country to feed 175,000 people for 1 month. And the closure of Haiti's main port and airport about a month ago has also, of course, disrupted the flow of aid coming into Haiti. As we've been telling you since the start of the current crisis, WFP has reached more than 500,000 people with emergency assistance, including hot meals for people living in temporary shelters in the Port-au-Prince area. They've also provided cash assistance and school meals in the outlying provinces. Meanwhile, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us that gang violence is disrupting access to health care for Haitians in Port-au-Prince. The Haiti State University Hospital has remained closed since March 30th, while La Paix University Hospital, the largest functioning public hospital, is of course overwhelmed. Personnel and ambulances also have difficulty accessing areas that are controlled by these armed gangs. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization, the UN Population Fund, also continue to support hospitals with equipment and medicines. Since March 1st, UNICEF, the International Organization for Migration, and their partners have delivered more than 4.5 million liters of drinking water at 29 sites across the capital. And as you know, the $674 million humanitarian response plan for Haiti is severely underfunded, with just 7% of the money being in the bank. Turning to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, our peacekeeping colleagues tell us that the Blue Helmets responded to an alert this morning about shots fired by Codeco combatants near the area of Tata Hill in Ituri province. The peacekeepers established a presence in the area, including between a hospital and the local church and market, to deter further threats. Together with the Congolese armed forces, the mission fired warning shots and eventually exchanged fire, which led to the Codeco combatants withdrawing from the area. The mission continues to monitor the situation. And in Sudan, as you may know, this coming Monday marks 1 year since the start of the devastating conflict that impacted the lives of millions of men, women, and children in Sudan, and of course has a rolling impact on countries in the region. On Monday, the Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Joyce Msuya, will be in Paris alongside other UN officials attending the Humanitarian Conference for Sudan and its neighbors. France and Germany and the European Union will be co-hosting. Ms. Masuya will address the conference and advocate for scaled-up resources to expand our operations in Sudan and in the region as a whole. She will also advocate for improved humanitarian access so that agencies can ensure the timely delivery of life-saving communities in need. And the Secretary General will have a video message for that conference. Also tomorrow we have the noon briefing. We will have two guests to discuss the situation in Sudan. That will be the humanitarian coordinator for Sudan, Clementine Nkweta Salami, and she will be joined by Michael Dunford, the regional director for East Africa for the World Food Program. And as deadly hostilities enter a second year, the UN fact-finding mission on Sudan released some heartbreaking figures, saying that the fighting between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces has killed thousands of civilians since it began on April 15th last year. Over 6 million men, women, and children have been displaced internally, while almost 2 million refugees have fled neighboring countries. Nearly 24 million people are in need of humanitarian help. Turning to Ukraine, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that yet another set of deadly attacks yesterday and today in Kharkiv, in Odessa, and the Donetsk region. According to local authorities, civilians were killed, including several children. Humanitarian partners on the ground say that energy infrastructure was also damaged after attacks in Odessa, in Kharkiv, in Zaporizhzhia, in Lviv, in Kyiv regions. In Kharkiv and Kyiv, families were left with no access to electricity due to these attacks. Humanitarian are mobilized and continue to provide emergency assistance, complementing the efforts of National Rescue and Municipal Services. This morning, the Security Council held a meeting on the maintenance of peace and security in Ukraine. Briefing was Miroslav Yencha, the Assistant Secretary General in the office, in the Department of Political and Peace Building Affairs. He said that we are appalled by the increase in civilian casualties as a result of relentless attacks in Ukraine. It is particularly disturbing that at least 57 children were killed or injured in March alone, doubling the number from February. He added that we're also witnessing hostilities spreading across Ukraine's border with regular cross-border strikes into the Russian Federation. And also briefing was Edem Wusornu, the Director of Operations and Advocacy at OCHA. She said that we remain deeply concerned by the lack of humanitarian access to parts of Donetsk, Kherson, and Luhansk, and Zaporizhzhia regions, which are occupied by the Russian Federation, and that at least 1.5 million people need humanitarian assistance in those areas alone. I just want to add that on Monday afternoon, IAEA Director Rafael Grossi will be in the building. He will be briefing Security Council members in the afternoon, and they have told us that he will be at the stakeout on Monday afternoon, likely around 5 p.m. And also, sad note, to say that our colleagues at the UN Refugee Agency are deeply saddened by the news of a shipwreck that happened yesterday in the Aegean Sea, where 3 young girls aged 5 to 10 years old were reported dead off Chios Island in Greece. UNHCR said that today there was another terrible shipwreck near Lampedusa where 9 people are confirmed dead. This is a reminder of the dangers that refugees and migrants face every day in the hands of smugglers as they seek a better life. Finally, 2 more member states, which means we've hit a century. That means we have 100. Okay, just checking. Yeah, you got that. Good. Latest 2 send us checks. Both countries happen to be landlocked. Give you a hint. One of those countries belongs to the OSCE, and the other one to SADC. More hints. Shaja is the national dish of one country. No, I think that's the OSCE country. Or maybe not. I don't, it's a good question. And zima is a traditional soup in the other. Okay, Zimbabwe is? Okay, there you go. You won Zimbabwe, and the other one? I got my soups all mixed up. Moldova. We thank our friends in Chisinau. Okay.